Have you ever been given a diagnosis that was supposed to explain everything, but left you with more questions than answers? And worse, the advice that made things harder, not easier. Stay with us because today we're talking about a medical bombshell that changes everything for millions of women. And it starts with a name. Why do we keep going back to quick fixes, even when we know they don't work? Welcome to the Coaches Hotline. Glucose, grit, and grace. Real talk with coaches, no sugarcoating.
We're here to help you ditch the diet cycle, stabilize blood sugar, and finally feel at home in your body.
Because health isn't about restriction. It's about freedom, energy, and confidence.
Let's dive in. Welcome back to Glucose, Grit, and Grace. I'm Coach Amber, and I am here with my two incredible co-coaches, Coach Elaine and Coach Elaine. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
You doing?
I am so fired up about today's conversation, like genuinely, because we're talking about something that the medical world just caught up on, and women have been living this truth for years. So in May, so last month, the Lancet, and the Lancet, I hadn't heard of it, but it is considered one of the most prestigious and trustworthy medical journals in the world. It's actually been around since 1823, and it consistently ranks among the top global journals for general medicine. And they boast an exceptionally high impact factor. So when they talk, people listen. And so they just came out with a study last month. And what they talked about was renaming PCOS, which stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And they changed it to polymetabolic ovarian syndrome. Wow. Now, the reason, there's a whole bunch of reasons that they did this. And the first one is pretty obvious in a sense, but polycystic is a misnomer because most women who have this syndrome don't have cysts. And so because of that, it could be pretty easily misdiagnosed. Well, nope, you don't have any cysts, so you must not have PCOS. But this new name really centers around metabolic dysfunction as the root driver. And what it also said is that 1 in 10 women are affected with this, and many go undiagnosed or misunderstood for that reason because they did not have cysts. They had, this symptom and that symptom and that symptom, but it didn't check all the boxes. So many women went undiagnosed or incorrectly diagnosed.
So that's just amazing. I mean, not in a good way,
Right.
But amazing that we've gone this long to finally realize. And I know things change, but it's just sometimes I get flabbergasted.
But to your point, it's been like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so people out there might be thinking, well, it's just a name. Who cares what they call it? And you know what? I'm going to push back a little bit on that because this rename is actually medicine finally admitting that something has been failing women for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what this looks like because I think a lot of women right now are living this.
Truly. I'll just share, when you were saying about how most women don't have cysts and so they don't get that kind of diagnosis, I feel like maybe that happened to me because I had irregular periods. I had infertility. They could never really put their finger on why I could never carry children. And yet, I ended up later coming down with hypoglycemia, prediabetes, and all the things that are metabolic issues. And I wonder if we had known that earlier, how
Yeah.
that might have changed things, how it could have maybe helped me. Not that I'm angry about it, because that was the 1990s. It was a long time ago. And back in the 1900s, medicine wasn't quite as good as it is today. So I am glad that medicine has come as far as it has, and that they are learning this, and that they are learning that there's so many things that are related to metabolic dysfunction. And I'm happy that we know how to help that.
Absolutely. Well, and part of it is that yes, medical technology and information is so much more advanced now. And back during that time when women were getting misdiagnosed or dismissed as you're fine, it's just your hormones, you're a woman, and we're
Mm-hmm.
being undertreated, or they were just handed birth control pills as the solution.
Right. As a
Oh,
way to
you're
regulate your
irregular,
period.
well,
Yeah.
take these.
Yeah.
It's like the magic pill. And we know the magic pill doesn't exist.
Right.
As much as we'd like the magic pill to exist, it doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, and also I believe that many women who are experiencing this were also told, well, maybe you just need to lose weight.
Right.
Maybe that's the reason for the infertility and things like that. And when you're told just to lose weight, I think above and beyond the mindset that kicks in with the insecurities about our bodies that women very often have, it's completely ignoring the insulin resistance that we know is the driver for storing fat
Storing fat,
from
and
our
yeah, and
bodies.
having the
Yeah.
metabolic dysfunction. And that's the thing. If it has always been, it's not that it's just now a metabolic disease. It has always been a metabolic disease. And so we know that that advice, just lose weight, doesn't work, because you can't lose weight if your metabolism and your blood sugar are not balanced, because your body is storing fat, because that's what happens when you have blood sugar dysregulation,
Mhm.
right? So, um, yeah, that just hit me. It's not just now a metabolic disease; it's always been a
Right.
metabolic disease. Yeah. So the idea of just lose weight, that doesn't work. There's a different focus that we have to deal with.
Well, and I also feel a little bit like it's playing whack-a-mole. And what I mean by that is when women come in to their doctor with XYZ symptoms and they get a pill or advice to lose weight to treat each of these symptoms, whether it's irregular cycles, hair loss, weight gain, mood swings, there's a pill for each one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But so we're putting band-aids on these gushing wounds without really addressing the root cause.
Exactly.
So, okay, so before I break down what's actually happening inside of the body, I want to make space for the human side first. Because this is something that women, 1 out of 10 women, are experiencing. And so I know this is hitting home for a lot of women. Elaine, could you share a little bit with our audience?
Yeah, just a little bit more of how it feels when you're having all these different symptoms. You don't know what's going on. Your
Hmm.
period is irregular, or if you're in childbearing years and you're desperately trying to have a child, that roller coaster takes its toll on you. And you really just want an answer. And until now, any answer that a doctor was trying to give you was not working. And that's what I ran into from, my mid 20s all the way up to like my early 50s, is what they said to do doesn't work. And so you're trying and you're beating yourself up and you're crying, and you just that emotional roller coaster that you go through just trying to get an answer or a diagnosis so you can get it fixed, but then the fix doesn't make any difference and you're still struggling and you're still having symptoms, and you start to feel like something is wrong with you, that you are the one who is doing it wrong or could have done it better, or it wears on you physically, it wears on you emotionally, it wears on you mentally. And I think that it's important to stop and recognize that, because it's hard. It's hard being a woman in a medical industry that has focused all of their research up until recently on men. Well, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
men don't have uteruses and ovaries and the hormones that we have. And so, for, a lot of it was just guessing. It was just guessing.
Yeah.
And thankfully, they're starting to take notice
Yes.
about women's health issues.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's changing, and that's a very good thing. So I don't want to disparage where we were, because we did the best with what we had where we were,
Exactly.
right?
Right. Right.
So, Elaine, I think it's really interesting that you bring up the emotion. And what I heard and what I know to be true is that this is like a metabolic issue. Like, this is a physiological, scientific thing that we women naturally blame on ourselves.
Mm,
Yes.
And I unfortunately think we do that way more than we realize. But when we're constantly blaming ourselves for things, that does make a huge impact.
Does. And I mean, listening to you guys, I mean, I've not had to deal with PCOS as it was, or PMOS. Is
Mm-hmm.
that what they
Yep, that's
changed?
the new one.
I get used to that new nomenclature. But at the same time, there have been things that, like I said, and that's kind of what resonated with me, is when people have this, and even from your story, Elaine, is the fact that you do start blaming yourself. You're like, what did I do wrong? Did I eat wrong? Did I do something? Did I stretch the wrong way? Did I break something? And I think part of that is there's grief for us and there's anger for us to go through.
mm,
And like I said, while I haven't been through this, I feel some of that grief and anger around, like you mentioned, with women's health, because, like you said, it's all focused on men's health. And not that that's not important, but I think at the same time, I've heard things that have happened that I'm like, why didn't I know this? Because I thought it was my fault. And it
mm,
really isn't. And I also want to take a moment um, to think that we owe the women who are listening to sit in the feeling for a little bit. Go
mm,
ahead and have those feelings. You have every right to have those feelings. Because if you've been living with this diagnosis or any diagnosis and I'm so happy that we're learning more. So there may
mm,
be other things that are going to come out, obviously, I would hope. Um, and if you're living with something that was off, there might be some really real grief there, because I feel like sometimes, oh my gosh, had I known this 20 years ago, I'm in my 60s. Life looks different now for me in my 60s than it did when it was in my 40s. Had I known this when I was 40, maybe it would have been different. But so we need to have that grief. We need to feel that. We need to get it out, and make sure that, that we're going to be okay going forward. And years, like you mentioned, Elaine, years of trying things that just didn't work for
Right.
reasons that no one could explain to you. It's not a small thing. So it's okay for you to feel that grief and that anger. Um, and the thing is to remember is that you weren't broken. We always,
mm,
as women, tend to blame ourselves. It was
Mhm.
me. I did this wrong, or I should have done this. I used to have, when I was in IT, we said we should have all over ourselves. Okay.
mm,
So it's not that we were mislabeled. We knew what we knew at the time, and we did the best we could with the information that we had. And we have to be okay with that. We can't go backwards.
Right.
So have your grief, have your feelings, but also look forward, because think about it. It's going to be better for our sons and daughters and nieces and nephews going forward. And the grief of loss, when we talk about eating, the grief of loss diets that couldn't work for a metabolic condition.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the anger at a system that told you just to try harder, have more willpower. So that's one of the things that also got me in what you were saying, Amber, is when
Mhm.
people say, "Oh, you need to go lose weight." Well, what's the best way to do that? Well, just eat less, exercise more, right? We know,
That's
all
not
know.
working for
Look at our
me.
last
Yeah.
episode before this one, maybe two before. And the grace, though, is finally understanding why and what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
So just believe that your body is not the problem, it was the approach.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
think that's
Elaine,
really
I'm so glad you said that because I mean, the grief is real and the anger is real. One of my
important.
biggest sadnesses in my life is that I could never bear children. It
mhm.
is, and it always made me feel less than. It's one of the reasons I hated my body so much because I thought my body had failed me. And so it's so important to be able to grieve that and to sit with the feeling and not push it down. Women grieve over the lost years that they had of trying to, run that hamster wheel that never changed anything for them. But others grieve over maybe the change and the implications that it has for their future, right? When you get a diagnosis, you're like, oh, my future isn't going to end up the way I thought it was going to be. So there's grief
Right.
there as well. So I'm so glad that you brought that up because if we don't stop and acknowledge this grief and this anger, we'll never fully heal from that. And we're all
Right.
about whole health healing, right? We're all about mindsets and emotions and as well as the foods we eat and the way we treat our bodies, but that mind stuff is important.
Oh,
It
so
is. And I
critical.
think the thing is too is it may come back. So you may have dealt with that grief and anger, but there's nothing saying there isn't anything that's going to trigger it, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Right.
There may be something that says, had I only known. So go through that path again. Go ahead and
Yeah.
allow the grief. Just, deal with the grief, deal with the anger. And then hopefully we can move on to the new stuff that's coming in. So
Mhm. Wow. I love that. Thank you both for sharing all of that. Like, whew, you want to talk about the human experience? That's it. And I know that we have women out there, probably more than we can count, who resonate with both of those messages. So thank you so much. So we've talked about the human experience, which we all know is very real. Let's get into the why because this is where women honestly start to feel like finally someone is explaining to me the way my body works in a way that it makes sense. So PMOS, and again that's polymetabolic ovarian syndrome, is a metabolic disease. The word metabolic is doing a lot of work. So let's go ahead and unpack it.
I can take that.
Okay.
So your metabolism is basically how your body feeds itself, how your
Mm-hmm.
body energizes itself, how your body removes waste from your body, how everything works. It is the basic human experience, and it is the basic way that we stay alive. And when we take blood sugar out of the equation, our body still needs balanced blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So that eating less, we've explained this before in previous episodes. Go and look at when we talk about the importance of blood sugar. But when we're not eating to support what our body needs, because our bodies, remember, are fuel as you go systems. And so we need to give our body what it needs when it needs it. It can only digest so much food at a time. If we give it more than that, it's going to store it as fat because it's in crisis, because it's like, I have more than I need. I don't know what to do. If we give it less than that, it still needs energy. It still needs to feed our cells. It still needs to, um, move blood through our body and take care of our brain and all the things that it does when it's feeding our cells in our body. And so it's going to pull that energy from muscles because our muscles are more easily metabolized, right?
Mhm.
So that this is the biggest reason why eating less, moving more is not the solution. The solution can only be feed your body what it needs when it needs it. Because when you are focusing on giving your body what it needs, all of a sudden your body's not in crisis anymore. It's not. I mean, if I can personify what happens inside, basically your body is finally saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't have to keep Elaine alive every single second because she's giving me what I need to stay alive.
Yes.
Right.
Therefore, I don't have to work so hard to regulate my blood sugar, and then I can go and heal other things." But when we're living in that constant state of stress, of up and down blood sugar, our body cannot take care of anything else. And so cells die and they accumulate, fat accumulates. Um, and things that need to get cleaned out don't get cleaned out. And that is the root of most of the diseases that we deal with, because we have all these, somebody calls them like zombie cells, where they are dead cells that our body can't remove because it's focusing on keeping us alive, if in layman's terms, right?
Hmm.
And then we get into the insulin resistance of it all. We're feeding our body too much. It has too much glucose. It only needs so much. And when it has too much glucose, it has to take it because we can't overload our brains with it. We can't overload our cells with it. And so insulin is released from the pancreas and the liver to deal with that excess glucose, which then it stores as fat. And eventually, our body gets so overrun with glucose and insulin, it basically all our cells kind of shut down, and they're like, we don't even know what to do anymore. We don't know what to accept. We can't open the door. We're just failing. And that's kind of what they call shoot, what's the word? Glycation, right?
Hmm.
Where your
Yep.
body is like aging faster because of all this stuff that's going on. So what blood sugar, and if we think about it in a reproductive sense, what blood sugar stabilization actually does is it reduces um, the excess hormones that get poured in. It reduces the androgen production. It restores your, because again, when your body has what it needs to live, it can focus on your hormones, and it can create it creates regularity with your cycle. It reduces inflammation. It lifts your brain fog, and your body can function the way it was meant to function. But it cannot function when you give it a deficit. I don't know if that was too sciencey or not, but it fascinates me how
Hmm.
perfectly balanced the body is and how
Yes.
perfectly it can work when we give it what it needs to work.
Yeah.
And when we don't continuously throw it off balance.
Right.
Exactly, when it has to work to balance, because whether we feed ourselves to balance it or not, it still has to be balanced.
Yeah.
And
It's
so we
either
might as well help our bodies be balanced, right? By the way we eat.
exactly. It's either going to work with you or in spite of you, but it's working nonetheless.
I
Exactly.
like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I know I'm amazed every day at, how I treated my body 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And it's like, oh, the poor thing, it's like, I need to give you a rest.
That's what totally changed for me. It's like I
Yeah.
have been treating my body so poorly. No
Right.
wonder it can't function.
Right.
And it really
I know.
changed my mindset from disliking what my body was doing to really appreciating how hard it was working just to keep me
I
alive.
know. I
It
know.
was
And it's like,
crazy.
it should be exhausted as
Right.
hard as
And
it was
pretty much I
working.
was, because I was just on the couch
Right.
waiting for bedtime.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Take,
Right. But what changed it was fueling my body then. And we've talked
hmm
about this before, but if anybody's new listening, um, simply, and it really is simple, it's can be complicated, but it's simple actually. And maybe not always easy, but it is simple. You have protein and a fat and a carb, and you eat those every 3 hours, and that fuels your body. It takes 3 hours for your body to digest food. For it takes 6 hours for your stomach to completely empty, but it takes 3 hours for your body to digest food. And then in 3 hours, it's like, okay, I need more energy because I've used all the energy you gave me, right?
right.
Whether you've eaten too much or not, it still needs more food after 3 hours.
Yeah. And
So,
it's almost like that car. Your car can't go on just a little bit empty.
right,
Right.
You've got to continue to feed it. If it gets down and you don't have anything, your car shuts down. Well,
exactly.
fortunately, our body doesn't. It could eventually, but that's how I kind of
Right.
equate it. We
Yeah,
don't like after you like I get good gas mileage. I have a hybrid, but I get 600 miles to the gallon. If I'm going to
Yes.
go 700 miles, I know that I'm going to have to fill up or give it some more. And it's the same way with our
mhm,
bodies. We can
Because
take
exactly.
it
you
to three
can't
hours.
add more gas to make sure you get that 100 miles extra.
Yeah,
Right.
You have to wait until it's been used up and that there's room.
yeah,
Yes, exactly. And that's the same way I see it with our body.
Yeah.
Kind of what you were describing, Elaine, is that we have to fuel ourselves. It's the fuel
right,
for your body. You can't
right.
go on empty because your body's going to try, just like your car is going to try and start because it's got all these other pieces, but it's not going to get you very far. So,
Exactly. And you need all three of those at the same time, the
yes.
protein, fat, and the carb, because they help each other turn
Mm-hmm.
into the little amino acids and everything that the blood can actually use. So if you
Yep.
just give yourself carbs, then you're just giving yourself glucose. But if you give yourself the protein, then you're also getting the amino acids that you need in order to process the glucose into something that your liver can metabolize into fuel for your body. So
Yeah.
it's very fascinating. And then the fat is very important because it surrounds the molecules and keeps them safe in the
Mm-hmm.
digestive system. So it's kind of cool how it works.
It is.
So it's like metabolic medicine.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
I
Yeah.
love it. Well, maybe that's the magic bullet. You know,
I think it is. I think at least it's a secret Dakota ring.
right? I agree. Oh, I love the secret decoder ring. You've used that before, and I love it
Yeah.
every time you use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so here's what I want every single woman listening to hold on to. Your body is not broken. The information was broken.
Mm,
The approach was broken. And the beautiful thing about that is information can change, approaches can change. And it's absolutely, this is the best part, not too late.
yeah.
So, this is what the rename means to me. It means the door is finally open to get the right help. Because now people are starting to have those conversations.
Yeah.
They are starting to ask more questions. And as more questions get asked and more conversations get had, more research is going to happen. All right, so we are coming up on the end of our episode, and I could honestly talk about this for another hour. But I want to make sure that we send you off with some things that are really solid. So, ladies, let's do our one word, one thought takeaway. Elaine, what do you want the women listening right now to hold on to?
You did it again, which
I
Elaine.
know as soon as I said it, I was like, I don't know who. really at that point in time, if your name is Elaine, you can say something. And since I'm not, I will shut up.
But Elaine, it looked like you were going to say something, so I'll let you go.
I think for me, I can't do one word, and I apologize for that. But it's just important to be aware of what's going on, keep looking, and just realize that the more information we get, the more power we have to know what to do.
I like that. So your one word summary would be it gives you power.
Yes, there you go.
My one word summary would be hope. I think that as medicine improves and keeps understanding deeper what we know about metabolism and blood sugar regulation, I think that it gives us hope that we can change how our bodies react to things and we can change how we take care of our bodies, and that we don't have to live in that deficit of eat less, move more, that we can live in a mindset of giving our body what it needs when it needs it.
I love that. And to kind of put together what you both said, I also can't use one word. So maybe we should change that to a thought because that's more words. Um, but it's that grace piece
Mm,
that it's not too late to start understanding your body differently and start asking, what are the next right steps
mm,
for me? It really isn't too late to unlearn and to learn new. And we also know that when we know better, we can do better. And so, really taking the time to pause whenever you feel broken and ask yourself, okay, what's really going on? Because every woman who has ever thought that they were broken because of all of the symptoms that we talked about today, we now know you weren't broken. It were some metabolic things going inside your body that can be worked with, that can be healed, and steps to move in the right direction. If this episode hit home for you, please share it with a woman in your life who needs to hear it. And if you've not already subscribed, do that now so you never miss a conversation. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Head to our channel, check out our other episodes. We've got quite a few, and boy, do we talk about so many different things. And if we've sparked something inside you today, drop it in the comments. We read every single one of them and we respond to them. If you have questions, throw those in the comments. Your question may be a future episode. We love you. We are so grateful that you are here, and we will see you next week.